Hello everyone, today we will discuss the mechanics part of OJ. So let's start the first question. The first question is, if a body is dropped from a height h, at what velocity it will touch the ground? So when the body is at a height h, so potential energy stored is equal to mgh. When that material will reach to the ground, then it will only have kinetic energy. That means the total potential energy will be converted into kinetic energy, that is equal to half mv square. So here m got cancelled, so v square is equal to 2gh. That means v is equal to root over of 2gh. So option b is correct. So let's solve the second question. Second question is, a stone is thrown upward with a velocity of 20 meter per second from the roof of a building of height 10 meter. At what velocity in meter per second will it reach the ground, assuming 10 meter per second acceleration due to gravity? That means let's assume that this is the building. Its height is 10 meter. So here one person throw the stone with a velocity of 20 meter per second. That means the initial velocity is 20 meter per second. So when it will reach to the top point, it will have velocity 0. That means final velocity will be 0 meter per second. So let's find how much height it covered. That means v square minus u square is equal to 2as. Here the acceleration due to gravity will be taken as negative because we are doing against the gravity. So 0 square minus 20 square is equal to 2 into minus 10 into s. That means minus 400 is equal to minus 20s. That means s is equal to 20. So here we find out that the stone will reach to a height of 20 meter. So here the stone is at a height of total 30 meter. 20 plus 10, that is 30 meter. So here the stone now only have potential energy. That means it have energy of mgh, that is equal to m into 10 into 30. That potential energy will be converted into kinetic energy here, because here only the stone will have kinetic energy. That means this total potential energy will be converted into kinetic energy, that is equal to half mv square. So here got cancelled. That means v square is equal to 10 into 30 into 2, that is equal to 600. So v is equal to root over of 600. So we got option D as the answer. So now let's solve the question number 4. Question number 4 is, if a body travel 10 meter distance at a speed of 10 meter per second and the next 10 meter distance at a speed of 20 meter per second in the same direction, what is the average speed in meter per second? So here the vehicle start its journey. First 10 meter it covered 10 meter per second. Then next 10 meter it covered 20 meter per second. So we have to find the average velocity. So we have one formula for this, that is 2xy by x plus y. That means x is the initial speed to cover the first 10 meter and y is the final speed to cover the next 10 meter. So by putting in this formula, we got 2 into 10 into 20 divided by 10 plus 10, that is equal to 400 divided by 400 divided by, sorry, here it will be 20. So 400 divided by 30. That means 40 by 3. So option C is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 5. So question number 5 is given that if a body moving with uniform acceleration travels a distance of 10 meter in first 10 seconds, how much total distance in meter will it cover at the end of 30 seconds from the beginning? That means, so what is given? First 10 meter it covered in 10 seconds. That means we have S is equal to half ut plus half at square. So initial velocity is equal to 0. That means putting 10 meter in the place of S, 10 is equal to 0 plus half into A into time given 10 seconds, that is equal to 10 square. So we got 10 is equal to 50A. That implies A is equal to 1 by 5. That means acceleration is 1 by 5. Now using this acceleration, we need to find what is the total distance covered at the end of 30 seconds. So we have formula that is equal to S is equal to ut plus half at square. So we need to find this S. We have given u is equal to 0, t is equal to 30 seconds. So S is equal to 0 plus half into A is equal to 1 by 5 into t is 30 square. S is equal to 900 divided by 10, that is equal to 90. So S is equal to 90 meter. So option D is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 7. Question number 7 is given that if VA and VB are velocities of A and B respectively and their directions are normal to each other, the relative velocity of A with respect to B, four options are given: VA plus VB, VA minus VB, root over of VA square plus VB square, root over of VA square minus VB square. So now we'll find out. It is given that VA and VB are moving perpendicular. Let us assume in this direction VA is moving and in this direction VB is moving. So they both are in perpendicular direction. The angle between them is 90 degree. So it's just like parallelogram law of vector addition. So we need to find out the resultant. So how we will find out the resultant? This resultant will be only VA square plus VB square, because we have one formula for this type of question: VA square plus VB square plus 2 VA VB cos theta root over. This theta is the angle between the both the vector. Here the angle between both the vector is 90 degree. That means cos 90 degree is 0. So this part becomes 0. So we have only VA square plus VB square. So option C will be the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 8. Question number 8 is, if two stones A and B are thrown upward at an angle 30 degree and 60 degree respectively from the ground at same speed, which stone will have longer horizontal range? So let's assume speed of both stone that is equal to v, because it is given in the question that the velocity or the speed of the both the stone is same, that is v. but they are thrown at different angle. For V30, that means the stone which is thrown at an angle 30 degree. Let's, this is y axis and this is x axis, so this will be somewhat like this. This is 30 degree. For the second stone which is thrown at an angle 60 degree, this is 60 degree, this total angle is 60 degree. So they will have horizontal component as well as vertical component. For V30, it will have horizontal component that is equal to V30 cos 30 degree, and vertical component that is equal to V30 sin 30 degree. This 30 is just to denote that. Don't think that this is value, just to denote that this 30 is given. So we need to find this distance for both the projection. Here, first of all, we'll find how much time it will take to reach to the ground. So this is the peak point. So in this peak point, velocity will be 0, that is v is equal to u plus at. So to go up, which velocity is working, that is vertical component. So this v will be when 0, that is at this peak point. So 0 is equal to V30 sin 30 degree minus g into t, that is equal to sin 30 degree is equal to root 3 by 1 by 2. So V30 into, so sin 30 degrees half minus gt. So we got t is equal to V30 by 2 into 10. T is equal to V30 by 20. This is the time to reach this peak point. So if this time is V30 by 20, then this time will be also V30 by 20. That means total time taken to reach to the ground from this point to this point will be V30 into 2, that is equal to V30 by 10. T is equal to V30 by 10. So here the horizontal component is doing the horizontal displacement. So we need to calculate the horizontal displacement. For V30 horizontal displacement will be V30 by 10 into V30 cos 30 degree. So that will be V square 30 degree cos 30 degree is equal to root 3 by 2 divided by 10, that is equal to V30 square root 3 by 20. This is the distance covered by the stone which is thrown at an angle 30 degree from the horizontal. Like this, the second stone which is thrown at angle 60 degree, it will have vertical component, that is V60 sin 60 degree. This is will be the initial velocity. So 0 is equal to V60 sin 60 degree minus gt, that is equal to t will be sin 60 degree is root 3 by 2. So root 3 V60 by 2 into 10, that will be t for the stone which is thrown at an angle 60 degree to reach this peak point. So same time will take to reach the ground from this point to this point? So total time will be root 3 v60 2 into 10 into 2. 2 will be got cancelled. That will be root 3 v60 by 10. So this is the total time to reach the ground. But horizontal component of the stone which, so this is the total time taken, but the horizontal component is doing the work to move the horizontal distance. So horizontal component is v60 cos 60 degree. This is the velocity along the horizontal. Time is root 3 v60 by 10. So cos 60 degree is half. So v60 by 2 into root 3 v60 by 10. That will be root 3 v60 square by 20. Same thing we have found here also. So v60 is equal to v30 because initially it is given that the velocity is v. So in both case we have same horizontal range. So we have got that at angle 30 degree and angle 60 degree it will cover the same horizontal range. So option C is the correct answer. Now we'll solve question number 9. Question number 9 given that the ratio of maximum vertical to maximum horizontal distance traveled by a projectile with theta as the angle of initial velocity with ground depends on 4 options are given: sin theta, cos theta, sin square theta, tan theta. So let's we throw the stone at an angle of theta. That means if it will have velocity v, then in the horizontal direction it will have velocity v cos theta. In the vertical direction it will have velocity v sin theta. So this v cos theta will help in horizontal movement and this v sin theta will help in vertical movement. So at this top point the stone will have zero velocity. So we have formula v is equal to u plus 80. That means this v will be 0 at this peak point. So 0 is equal to v sin theta minus gt. Why I have taken minus gt? Because acceleration will be negative because we are throwing the stone against the gravity. So we got t is equal to v sin theta by g. So this is the time taken to reach to the this top point. Then the stone will take same time to reach to the ground from this peak point. Then total time will be v sin theta g into 2, that is called 2v sin theta by g. So total horizontal distance is equal to, this is the time and this is the velocity. So v cos theta into 2v sin theta by g, that will be 2v square cos theta sin theta by g. This is the horizontal distance covered by the stone. Then what is the maximum vertical distance? Vertical distance will be we have one formula, that is v square minus u square is equal to 2as. So v square is the final velocity and u square is the initial velocity. So to go up, this component is only working. That means in the place of u we will put v sin theta. So in the place of v we will put velocity of this point, that is 0. 0 square minus v square sin square theta is equal to 2. Here we will take a as g, which is negative, into s. That means s will be v square sin square theta by 2g. So here it is asked about the ratio. So when we will take the ratio S max vertical by S max horizontal, that will be equal to v square sin square theta by 2g divided by this portion 2v square cos theta sin theta by g. That means that when we will simplify this one, v square sin square theta 2g into g 2v square cos theta sin theta, g will be got cancelled, v square will be cancelled, 1 sin theta and 1 sin theta will be cancelled, that will be equal to tan theta by 4. So we have given 4 options, that is first option is sin theta, second option is cos theta, third option is sin square theta, and fourth option is tan theta. So the ratio of maximum vertical displacement to the maximum horizontal displacement will depend on tan theta. So option D will be the answer. Now we will solve question number 10. Question number 10. What is the question? If m is the mass of projectile thrown with velocity u at an angle theta with the ground, then the change in momentum from the lowest to the highest point of its trajectory will be. 4 options are given: mu, 2mu, mu into sin theta, mu into cos theta. So let's solve this question. So given that, this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. This is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. It is given that the initial velocity is u and this angle is theta. So if the initial velocity is u, then its horizontal component will be u cos theta and its vertical component will be u sin theta. So what is asked? The change in the momentum from the initial point to final point. So here the vertical velocity is u sin theta, and this velocity is only responsible for taking the stone to the top point or the highest point. That means we have momentum p is equal to mv. This is the general formula. Which velocity? The velocity which is helping to move the stone. So here for vertical movement, this velocity is only working. That means initial movement is equal to m into what is v? U sin theta. That is equal to mu sin theta. It is the initial movement of the stone. When the stone reaches to the peak point, here the velocity will be 0. That means this part will be 0. If this part is 0, then at the top point movement will be 0. That is p at the top will be m into 0. That is equal to 0. So in the question it is asked that to find out the difference. So difference will be mu sin theta minus 0. That is equal to mu sin theta. So option C is the answer. Now we will solve question number 11. The question number 11 is the total time of flight of projectile thrown upward with speed u at an angle theta with the ground surface is. 4 options are given: 2u sin theta by g, 2u cos theta by g, u sin theta by 2g, u cos theta by 2g. Now let's solve this question. So we throw the stone or the projectile with velocity u. This is u, this is theta, this is u cos theta, this is u sin theta. So this u sin theta is helping the stone to reach to the peak point. This is the peak point. So here the velocity will be 0. So v is equal to u plus 80. So final velocity will be 0. That means 0 is equal to u is the initial velocity, u sin theta. Here a will be the acceleration due to gravity and it will be taken as negative because the stone is moving against the gravity, that is minus g into t. So t will be u sin theta by g. If this is the time taken to reach to the maximum point, then same time will take from maximum point to ground. That means total time will be u sin theta by g into 2, that is equal to 2u sin theta by g. So option A is the correct answer. Now we'll solve question number 12. Question number 12 is, which of the following is conserved in elastic collision? So what is elastic collision? In elastic collision, kinetic energy is not lost, or there is no loss in kinetic energy. That means kinetic energy lost is 0. So when the kinetic energy lost is 0, then momentum get conserved. So here 4 options are given. First option is potential energy, second option is kinetic energy, third option is momentum, and fourth option is impulse. So both option B and option C is correct. Let's solve question number 13. What is question number 13? Question number 13 is given, two balls of equal mass M and of perfectly elastic material are lying on the floor. If one of the ball with velocity v is made to strike the second ball, both the balls after impact will move with a velocity. Options are v, v by 2, v by 4, v by 8. So what is the concept is, for a system, always the momentum before the collision and after the collision remain conserved. So this is the first ball with mass m, and this is the second ball with mass m. This is at rest and it's moving at velocity v. So initial movement of this system, the initial momentum of the system is mv plus, it's have 0 velocity, m into 0, that is equal to mv. So after the collision, the final momentum will be also equal to mv. That means if it strike this ball, then they both will move in this direction. That means it will have some velocity and it will have some velocity. Let's the velocity of this ball is v2. The same velocity here will be also, because both have same mass. So m v2 plus m v2 is equal to mv. M got cancelled. 2v2 is equal to v, v2 is equal to v by 2. That means the velocity at which these both ball will move after collision is equal to v by 2. So option B is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 26. Question is, a spring of constant K hung from the top of a roof ceiling. If the spring is pulled down by applying a force P at its lower end, the maximum extension in the spring will be. This is the ceiling. From that the spring is attached. Here it is told that force P is applied. If force P is applied, then assume that this is a mass of force P. Then what will happen? The spring will go to some extra distance, that is x. So the total energy of the system will be 0. That means the work done by the force and the work done by the spring will do the work against this force. That means P into x is the work done by the force downward minus half kx square is equal to 0. That means the work done by the force downward and work done by the spring upward, the total work done by the system will be 0. That will be equal to px is equal to half kx square. So x and one x got cancelled here, x. So x will be 2p by k. 2p by k. So option A is correct. Option A is correct. Now we will solve question number 27. Question is, the body executing simple harmonic motion while passing through its mean position will have kinetic energy and potential energy as follow. Four options are given: maximum, minimum, minimum, maximum, 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 minimum, minimum. So when a body executing simple harmonic motion, let this is the mean position, this is the maximum position in the right, and this is the maximum position in the left, minus a, let is this is the mean position, let it's 0 plus a minus a. So this is let the total energy, sum of potential energy and kinetic energy. So kinetic energy graph will go like this and potential energy graph will go like this. That means at the extreme position potential energy is high or maximum, and at the mean position potential energy 0 and kinetic energy is maximum. This is potential energy. So at the mean position k is maximum and potential energy is minimum, which is option A. Option A. This is total energy, don't be confused. This label is total energy, this is kinetic energy graph, this is potential energy graph. Now we will solve question number 28. Question is, the center of gravity of a body can dash its center of mass. Four options are given: lie below, lie above, coincide with, all of these. So answer will be option D, all of these. Why option D, all of these? Question is why? When the gravitational field is 0 at that time, for example this is a body and gravitational field is 0, then if this is the center of mass, then center of gravity will coincide at this point. So option B is also correct. So if gravitational field is high, gravitational field is high gravitational field, then the center of gravity will lie below the center of mass. This is center of mass, this is center of gravity. So center of gravity will lie below the center of mass. So option A is correct. If gravitational field is lower, if gravitational field is lower, then the center of gravity will lie above the center of mass. This is center of mass, this will be the center of gravity. So option, all the three options are correct. So option D, which is all of these, option D, which is all of these, will be the answer. Now we will solve question number 29. Question is, the position of center of mass for a two particle system of mass m1 and m2 separated by distance x as measured from the mass m1 each. We have general concept. What is general concept? For example, this is the origin point. From this origin point, the first mass m1 is at a distance x1 and second mass m2 is at a this is x1 and this is x2. Then somewhere at this place center of mass will be exist. For example, this is xc. So we have formula m1 plus m2 into xc. The moment of m1 plus m2 with respect to center will be equal to the moment of m1 with respect to origin, moment of m2 with respect to origin. So m1 x1 plus m2 x2. This is general formula. But here what is given? Given that we are calculating the uh, that is a center of mass with respect to m1, then this x1 part will be 0. That means what we were getting, x is equal to m1 x1 plus m2 x2 by m1 plus m2. This is general formula, but here we have to find with respect to m1. Then this x1 part will be 0. This x1 part will be 0. Then xc will be 0 plus m2 x2 by m1 plus m2. That will be m2 x2 by m1 plus m2. Here x2 is given as x, m2 x by m1 plus m2. So option B will be the answer. Now we will solve question number 21. That is question number 21. Question is, moment of inertia of solid sphere of radius r and mass m about its diameter. So generally what we do, it's a derivation question. So we need to remember this formula while we are appearing any exam. We need to remember remember these formulas. So we have 4 options, that is mr square by 5, 2mr square by 3, 2mr square by 5, mr square. So option C is correct, which is 2 by 5 mr square. So you have to remember these formulas for while you are appearing in exam. Don't try to derive the formula. So try to remember these formulas. Now we will solve question number 22. Question number 22 is, moment of inertia of a thin circular ring of radius r and mass m about an axis perpendicular to the plane of the ring. So 4 options are given: mr square by 2, 2mr square by 3, 2mr square by 5, mr square. Let this is the ring and this is its center. So let we assume this is distance dx. So if total mass of ring is equal to m, then per unit length mass will be m by 2 pi r, where r is the radius of this circular ring. For dx length mass will be m by 2 pi r into dx. That means for this small length dx, mass is this part. So how we generally calculate moment of inertia? General formula is mass into distance square. So here mass of this small portion is this one and its distance is r. So m into, in the place of m we will put this one, that is m by 2 pi r into dx into distance square, that is r square. So this is the moment of inertia for this portion of the ring. So we need to find out the total moment of inertia for the whole ring. That means we have to integrate. For example, this is 0 point, then this total will be 2 pi r, 0 to 2 pi r. So when we will integrate we are integrating with respect to dx. That means here r will be cancelled, m 2 pi 0 to 2 pi r. Here dx will integrate, it will give x. When it will be integrated, sorry, we will have only dx. When we will integrate this one, we will have only x 0 to pi r. When we will put the value 2 pi r minus 0, then 2 pi got cancelled, that is m r square. So option D is the correct answer. Now we'll solve question number 23. What is the question is? The question is the unit of moment of inertia of an area is. Four options are given. Option A m, option B m square, option C m cube, option D m to the power 4. So like moment of inertia of mass, the formula is mass into distance square. Like that, moment of inertia of area will be area into distance square. So area have unit meter square and distance square will have unit meter square. So resultant will have meter to the power 4 as their unit. So option D is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 24. What is the question? The question is moment of inertia is the second moment of, four options are given. Option A weight, option B mass, option C area, option D all of these. Generally we count moment of inertia of generally mass. We can also count second moment of inertia of area. Like mass, weight is similar quantity, so we can calculate second moment of inertia of mass, weight as well as area. So all the three options are correct. So option D, which is all of these, so option D will be correct answer. Now we will solve question number 25. Question is the maximum angle up to which an inclined plane can be tilted up with the horizontal so that a body having static coefficient of friction mu with the plane will not slide down. So let this is the inclined plane which is forming a maximum angle alpha. Up to this angle the body is not sliding down. So let this is the body, and this body will have its weight W, and it will have a normal component W cos alpha, and it will have a random component W sin alpha. So as the body is trying to move downward, then friction will act upward, which is mu n, where n is the normal force. So what is n for this problem? As the body is putting a force W cos alpha on this weights, so the same normal force will be act upward by this weights on the body. So that will be n. So frictional force will be mu n, that will be mu W cos alpha. So this will be the frictional force. So this frictional force resisting the body to move downward. So downward force is W sin alpha. That means at the extreme condition, u cos alpha is equal to w sin alpha. When this condition will be equal, this is the extreme condition. If this quantity increase by small amount, then this body will go to down. So will w got cancelled, so tan alpha is equal to mu. That means alpha is equal to tan inverse mu. So this is the maximum angle up to which this body will remain here without sliding. So option C is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 28. Question is, the efficiency of screw jack having an angle of friction phi is maximum when its helical angle is, four options are given: 45 degree minus phi by 2, 45 degree plus phi by 2, 45 degree minus phi by 4, 45 degree plus phi by 4. So generally for screw jack, effort formula effort P is equal to W tan alpha plus phi. This have a derivation, so in some other class I will derive this formula. So where W is the weight, alpha is the helix angle, and phi is the friction angle. So we have to find at what angle of helix the efficiency will be maximum. So efficiency of jack screw is equal to ideal effort by actual effort. This is the formula of efficiency of screw jack. So in ideal effort, we take this phi part as 0. So ideal effort will be W tan alpha, and actual effort will be W tan alpha plus phi. So this is the efficiency. That is W tan alpha by W tan alpha plus phi. If we will differentiate both sides with respect to alpha, then we will find that alpha will come out to be 45 degree minus phi by 2. So option A is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 29. Question is, which of the following is a vector quantity? Four options are given: mass, speed, distance, and option D is none of these. So first of all, we need to know what is vector quantity. So vector quantity is something which have magnitude and direction. If any quantity having magnitude and direction, then only it can be called as vector quantity. If it only have magnitude, then it is a scalar quantity. So we have four options. Mass have only magnitude, so it's a scalar quantity. Scalar means only magnitude. So mass will be scalar quantity, speed will be also scalar quantity, distance also scalar quantity. So option D is correct answer. So now we will move to question number 30. Question number 30 is, Hooke's law holds good up to, four options are given. Option A, up to proportional limit, up to elastic limit, up to plastic limit, up to yield limit. So option A is the correct answer. Option A is the correct answer, which is proportional up to proportional limit. Proportional limit. So option A is correct. Option A. Now we will do question number 31. Question number 31 is, this is 30, this is 29. Question number 31. So question number 31 is, Young's modulus is the ratio of, four options are given: longitudinal stress to longitudinal strain, longitudinal strain to longitudinal stress, shear stress to shear strain, lateral stress to lateral strain. So actually what is Young's modulus is, for example, this is a material, we stretch it downward, then it will expand in the longitudinal direction. For example, it expand up to this place. Then this is the change in the length, that is del L, and this is the total length. So strain will be del L by L. If we apply the stress, which is equal to, for example, A, then Young's modulus will be stress by strain. So that will be A by del L by L. So option A is the correct answer. Option A is the correct answer. Now we will do question number 32. Now we will solve question number 32. Question is, for which material Poisson's ratio is more than 1? Options are steel, copper, aluminum, and none of these. So basically Poisson ratio lies between 0 to 1. Basically Poisson ratio basically lies between 0 to 1, but only for anisotropic polymer forms Poisson ratio greater than 1. So here four options are given: steel, copper, aluminum, and none of these. So option D will be the correct answer, that is none of these. Option D. Now we will solve question number 33. Question is, for a simple machine with 80% mechanical efficiency, mechanical advantage is 20. If the distance traveled by the load is 2 meter, how much distance in meter will be moved by effort? So efficiency is equal to mechanical advantage by velocity ratio. This velocity ratio has another formula, velocity ratio, that is equal to distance moved by effort divided by distance moved by load. So distance moved by effort, let us assume x, distance moved by load given, that is 2. So putting this value in the place of velocity ratio, we get n is equal to, mechanical advantage is 20 by x by 2, and this n is 80%, that is equal to 20 by x by 2. This 80% we can write as 0.8. So 0.8 is equal to 40 by x. That implies x is equal to 40 by 0.8. That will be equal to 50. X is equal to 50. What is x? X is our distance moved by the effort. So option D is the correct answer. Option D is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 35. Question is, in self-locking condition of a simple machine, the mechanical efficiency is less than. Four options are given. Option A 0.1, option B 0.3, option C 0.4, option D 0.5. So it is a remembering question, and this value is it should be less than it should less than 50%, which is equal to less than half, which is equal to less than 0.5. So option D is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 36. Question is, the velocity ratio of a differential pulley block with capital D and small d as diameter of larger and smaller pulley. This is also formula based question, and its answer is 2d by d minus small d. So four options are given. First option is capital D by capital D minus small d. Option B is capital D by capital D plus small d. Option C is 2d by capital D minus d. So this is option C. Option C is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 38. So question is, the resultant of two equal force A making an angle theta is option A 2p sin theta by 2, 2p cos theta by 2, 2p tan theta by 2, 2p sec theta by 2. So let us assume that these are two forces, that is A, and this is the resultant angle, and this angle is theta. So R is equal to root over of a square plus 2a into a cos theta. So this is root over of 2a square plus 2a square cos theta. So taking 2a square common, 1 plus cos theta. We have in trigonometry our formula 1 plus cos theta is equal to 2 cos square theta by 2. So putting this value in this place, we got 2a square into 2 cos square theta by 2, that is equal to root over of 4a square cos square theta by 2. So root over of 4 is 2, root over of a square is a, and root over of cos square theta is cos theta by 2. So the answer is option B, which is 2p cos theta by 2. Now we will solve question number 39. Question is, if a number of forces are acting at a point and their sum of horizontal and vertical components are summation h and summation v respectively, then their resultant will be inclined at an angle theta with the horizontal, so that tan theta will be equal to, four options are given, summation h by summation v by summation h, summation v into summation h, summation v plus summation h. So this is the point different forces are acting here. So when we will calculate the horizontal and vertical component of this force, for example, this is the resultant along the horizontal direction, and this is the resultant along the vertical direction. Then if theta is the angle with the horizontal, so this is the angle. This is the vertical component and this is the horizontal component. That means this is the resultant vertical, this is the resultant horizontal. So their resultant is this. r and it's making angle theta. Then this theta, if we will join this point, this is our vertical component and this is our horizontal component. So this is v summation v, this is summation h. So tan theta will be summation v by summation h. So option B is the correct answer. Now we will solve question number 40. Question number 40 is 1 joule of work is equal to, 4 options are given, 1 Newton per meter, 1 kg force into meter, 1 dyne into centimeter, 1 gf into centimeter. So actually what is work? Work is equal to force into displacement. So unit of work is joule, that is SI unit, and SI unit of force is Newton into SI unit of displacement is meter. So 1 joule of work is equal to 1 Newton force displace 1 meter. That means 1 joule will be equal to 1 Newton meter. So option A is correct.